Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we aren't just looking at a piece of television history. We are staring directly into the abyss of consequence.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I mean, we are breaking down a moment where the floor doesn't just drop out, it completely shatters.
It's a heavy one. We're dissecting a singular hour of television that reshaped the entire landscape of the story, both in front of the camera and surprisingly behind it, too.
We're talking, of course, about Breaking Bad, specifically the season 2 finale, which is titled ABQ.
Right, ABQ, short for Albuquerque, setting the character and, in this specific case, the blast radius.
Exactly. And to guide you through all this wreckage, we are pulling from a pretty massive stack of sources today.
We have the detailed production notes, the original episode synopsis, and some really great critical essays.
Yeah, from the AV Club and the Ringer. Plus, we've got some truly bizarre historical records regarding aviation disasters that we'll get into later.
Which is just a fascinating collection of data to work with, because
Right.
it really highlights how this episode serves as this massive pivot point.
It does. Our mission today is to unpack how ABQ ties together these huge character arcs, introduces iconic new players to the game.
Entirely by accident, I might add.
Right, by total accident,
Mhm.
and how it delivers a climax that is, quite frankly, catastrophic.
It really is.
I want to start with the atmosphere, though, because if you look at the structure of Season 2, it was unique. We had those black and white flash forwards all season long,
The pink teddy bear.
floating in the pool, the hazmat suits, the debris.
It was basically a puzzle box for the audience.
Mhm.
The writers were training us to expect a disaster.
But they misdirected us completely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all thought, oh, Walt and Jesse are going to get caught cooking, or the cartel is coming for them.
Some external threat.
Right. But the disaster wasn't external. It was entirely internal.
And that brings us to the opening scene of ABQ, the morning after.
The silence of that opening is what really strikes you.
It's haunting.
The source material describes it as the morning after the events of the previous episode, Phoenix. Jesse Pinkman wakes up. But he's not just waking up from a normal sleep. He is waking up from a intense, heroin-induced stupor.
And the lighting in this scene is so specific. It's this bright, harsh Albuquerque morning light cutting directly into this dark, squalid drug den of an apartment.
He wakes up and he finds his girlfriend, Jane Margolis, next to him.
And she's not moving.
She's not. The specific medical detail provided in the analysis is just tragic. She had choked on her own vomit.
Aspiration of vomitus.
Right, while sleeping on her back.
Yeah.
Which is the direct result of the heroin use, but also, as we, the audience, know, a result of Walt turning her over the night before.
But Jesse doesn't know that part.
No, to Jesse, this is just a random cruel act of the universe.
His reaction is so visceral. The source describes him attempting CPR. He is frantic. He's pumping her chest. He's screaming.
But the source also notes a really grim reality here. She had already been dead for several hours.
Rigor mortis hadn't fully set in yet, but she was gone.
There is a specific psychological break that happens here for Jesse. Up until this point, the consequences of his lifestyle were violence or jail.
External threats again.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the first time the consequence is pure, unadulterated loss. He is described in the text as horrified and distraught, which honestly feels like an understatement.
He is completely destroyed. And what does he do? Because this is a really telling moment for his character.
He doesn't call 911 immediately.
No.
The instinct for self-preservation, or perhaps the instinct instilled by Walt, overrides the instinct to get help. He contacts Walter White.
I woke up, I found her, that's all I know.
Right, he's looking for a father figure or a fixer.
And Walt, in turn, calls Saul Goodman.
This is where the machinery of the show really shifts gears. Saul doesn't come to the apartment himself.
Saul's way too careful for that.
He is. He sends a cleaner. And this is a massive moment for the series. This is the introduction of Mike Ehrmantraut.
Played by the incredible Jonathan Banks.
The source explicitly states that ABQ is the episode that introduces Mike. And he arrives at the apartment not to comfort Jesse, but to sanitize the crime scene.
The contrast there is so jarring. You have Jesse, who is hyperventilating, crying, just completely falling apart,
And then you have Mike.
who moves with this terrifying clinical efficiency.
He's collecting needles, he's wiping surfaces.
It's the introduction of true professionalism into their amateur criminal world.
Mike gives Jesse a script. Do you remember the exact instructions?
Vividly, I woke up, I found her, that's all I know. He makes Jesse repeat it. He drills him on it.
It's a rehearsal for a lie. Mike is essentially deleting the truth of Jane's humanity and replacing it with a sterile police report.
And while this cold cleanup is happening, the tragedy just deepens because Jane's father, Donald, arrives.
That scene is almost unbearable to watch. Donald Margolis knocking on the door expecting to take his daughter to rehab.
The source notes the event simply as Donald finding the body, but the implication is total devastation.
Mike leaves. Jesse is left to face the father.
And Jesse, he just doesn't handle it. He breaks.
The source says he blames himself entirely for Jane's death. He escapes the scene and flees to a crack house in the worst part of town.
Which leaves Walt to clean up the emotional mess. Walt tracks Jesse down, and the scene in the crack house, it's incredibly pivotal.
We see Walt enter this absolute den of squalor to find Jesse.
The source describes Jesse as anguished. He is weeping into Walt's chest. I loved her. I loved her.
And Walt comforts him. And this is the key insight from the critical reception we looked at, is a comfort built entirely on a lie.
Because Walt is the reason she is dead.
Exactly. He is comforting Jesse for a trauma that he, as Walt, actively allowed to happen. It is the height of manipulation masked as paternal care.
So just in this first segment, we have a tragic death, a cover-up, the introduction of a major new character, and Jesse being sent to rehab.
That's already a full season's worth of drama for most shows.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I want to pause on that cleaner character, Mike, because this leads us to one of those production insights that I think is just as fascinating as the plot itself.
Oh, the happy accident.
Yes, I love this stuff. Because Mike feels so essential to the DNA of Breaking Bad. He's the third leg of the stool eventually.
Absolutely. He becomes the moral or maybe immoral compass of the entire show.
But according to the production notes, that was never the original plan.
Not at all.
The role of the cleaner was originally written for Saul Goodman. Bob Odenkirk was supposed to be the one in the apartment slapping Jesse awake and telling him what to say.
Which makes perfect sense narratively. Saul is the lawyer. He's the guy who knows how to game this system.
So why didn't it happen?
Scheduling.
How I Met Your Mother.
It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
It does. Bob Odenkirk had a recurring role as Marshall's boss on the sitcom How I Met Your Mother.
He was contractually obligated to be on that set in Los Angeles.
He physically could not be in Albuquerque to film ABQ.
So Vince Gilligan, the creator, is stuck. He has a crucial scene to clean up and no actor to play it.
He can't rewrite the scene because the plot requires the physical evidence to disappear before the cops arrive.
Right. So he invents a guy. Saul says, I know a guy who knows a guy.
Enter Jonathan Banks as Mike.
And think about how profoundly that changes the tone of the scene.
Completely.
If Saul's in that room, the scene is frantic, it's loud, Saul is panicked. He's probably cracking jokes to deal with his own stress.
So would have played as dark comedy.
But with Mike, it's silent. It's deadly serious. It introduces a level of genuine menace that Saul never had.
Mike doesn't crack jokes. Mike hits you in the throat.
And the source notes the legacy of this decision. Mike wasn't just a one-off character. He was promoted to the main cast in Season 3.
And subsequently became the co-lead of the prequel Better Call Saul.
It's staggering to think about. An entire pillar of this narrative universe, the entire backstory of the cartel enforcer, his relationship with Gus Fring, the tragedy of his son.
All of that exists solely because Bob Odenkirk had to go film a network sitcom.
It's the chaos theory of creativity.
Yeah.
Constraint breeds invention. Because they were missing a piece, they built a better piece.
Speaking of building, or rather destroying, while Jesse is hitting this absolute rock bottom, Walt is dealing with his own domestic collapse.
And this part of the episode operates almost like a procedural detective story.
It really does. It's Skyler's turn to break bad, in a way. Not criminally, but intellectually.
She stops being the passive, worried wife and starts being the active investigator.
The context here is that Walt is finally preparing for his surgery. This is the big medical moment they've been building towards since the pilot episode.
He is getting the tumor removed.
But the financial side of things is a ticking time bomb. The source mentions the website Walter Jr. created, SaveWalterWhite.com.
Which is iconic in its own right. The Comic Sans font, the early internet PayPal button.
It's pathetic and sweet at the exact same time, but the reality, as the source points out, is incredibly sinister.
Saul Goodman is using this wholesome website to launder Walt's drug money.
He's having a hacker in Belarus or somewhere funnel these small anonymous donations into the site.
So to the world, Walt is a charity case. He's a viral sensation.
The source notes that the website even garners local media attention.
And Walt's reaction to this is fascinating to watch. He absolutely hates it.
He is visibly uncomfortable on camera.
He's a dangerous drug kingpin, a man earning millions of dollars illegally. But he has to sit on his living room couch and pretend to be grateful for charity.
His ego is just screaming the entire time.
But the ego isn't actually what gets him caught. It's the biology, the anesthesia.
Ah, the truth serum effect.
Exactly.
The source details this specifically. On the day of the operation, Walt is being put under. He's in that groggy twilight state just before the surgery begins.
Skyler is holding his hand. She asks him a simple question. She asks if he brought his cell phone.
And he mumbles, "Which one?"
Which one? 2 simple words.
And that is the crack in the dam.
The source says this simple phrase makes Skyler deeply suspicious. It validates every single paranoia she's had for 2 seasons.
Why would a mild-mannered high school chemistry teacher need 2 cell phones?
And while Walt is recovering, while he is physically incapacitated in a hospital bed, Skyler goes to work.
She launches a full-scale investigation into his behavior over the past few months.
The source lists the key discoveries she makes, and it's brutal because it dismantles Walt's entire web of lies, one by one.
First, she calls Gretchen Schwartz,
Walt's wealthy former friend. His primary cover story was that Gretchen and Elliot were paying for the cancer treatment.
Skyler calls her directly. She finds out Gretchen never sent a single dime.
The money came from somewhere else entirely.
Strike one. Then she investigates his alleged visits to his mother.
Right. Walt had claimed he was visiting his mother to borrow money or help her out. Another solid alibi.
Skyler calls the mother.
He was never there. He hadn't visited her at all.
Strike two.
By the time Walt is finally released from the hospital, groggy and stitched up, Skyler has solved the puzzle.
She doesn't know exactly what he's doing. She doesn't know it's a meth empire, but she knows he is a fundamental liar.
The confrontation described in the source is devastatingly quiet.
There's no massive screaming match. No throwing plates.
Skyler simply packs her things and reveals she knows everything is a lie.
And Walt, he tries the same old tactic. He pivots. He says, "I can explain. Let me tell you everything."
And this is the most heartbreaking line in the episode. Skyler refuses.
She says, "I am too afraid to know."
That is such a profound admission. She knows that whatever the actual truth is, it's highly criminal.
And if she knows the details, she officially becomes an accomplice.
She chooses ignorance to save her own soul, or perhaps just to protect the children from whatever fallout is coming.
She tells him to move out, and she drives away.
So Walt has effectively won. He survived the deadly surgery. He has the millions in drug money.
But he returns to a completely empty house.
He has lost the very thing he constantly claimed to be doing all of this for. The family is gone.
And this brings us to the climax of the episode, the segment we are calling the butterfly effect.
Because if we thought the personal destruction was bad, the episode now scales up to a level of disaster that is almost biblical.
The source mentions a significant time jump here. 5 weeks pass.
Walt is living alone in his house. Jesse is recovering in rehab.
And the camera focus dramatically shifts to a character we've barely noticed outside of his grief, Donald Margolis.
Jane's father. We finally find out what his job actually is.
He is an air traffic controller.
Talk about a high-stakes reveal.
It totally recontextualizes everything about him.
We see him returning to work after his bereavement leave. His colleagues ask how he is doing. He says he's fine.
But the source notes he is visibly not fine. He is sweating. He is distracted.
He is still deeply grieving Jane's death.
And in that specific job, distraction is lethal?
The sequence is edited masterfully. We see him staring at the glowing radar screen. The little blips are moving.
The trigger is so tragic. A charter plane checks in over the radio.
The pilot's voice, or perhaps the flight call sign, reminds him of Jane. Maybe it's similar initials or a phonetic similarity.
The source indicates his mind wanders for just a few critical seconds.
He's thinking about his little girl in the morgue.
And he misses a massive conflict on the screen.
He inadvertently allows the flight path of Wayfarer Airlines Flight 515, which is a commercial Boeing 737, to cross directly into the path of a smaller charter plane.
We then cut back to Walt. He's sitting outside by his pool.
He's wearing that white bathrobe, looking up at the sky.
He hears a sound, a massive boom.
He looks up.
And he witnesses a mid-air collision. 2 planes hitting each other in the clear blue sky right above Albuquerque.
The visual description of this is surreal. It's not a fiery, loud action movie explosion immediately.
It's a sudden puff of smoke and then the horrifying rain of debris.
And then the symbol.
The source notes that a charred pink teddy bear falls from the sky, bounces off the pavement, and lands right in Walt's pool.
Floating face down on the water, one eye missing.
The source connects this directly back to the flash-forward teasers we saw all season.
We finally understand what we've been looking at. The body bags in the driveway weren't Walt and Jesse. They were innocent passengers.
The hazmat suits weren't for a new meth lab. They were government officials cleaning up human remains and jet fuel from a suburban neighborhood.
It's an absolute gut punch to the viewer. But let's trace the line of causality here because it is vital. This isn't just a random accident.
No, this is the big so what of the episode.
Walt let Jane die. He stood there and watched her choke to protect his own selfish interests.
Because Jane died, Donald was consumed by unmanageable grief.
Because Donald was consumed by grief, he failed at his highly sensitive job.
Because he failed at his job, 167 people died.
Walt killed those people.
Morally, yes, absolutely. Legally, no.
But the universe of the show is clearly telling us that Walt's cancer isn't just a tumor in his lung. It's his moral decay, and it is contagious.
It spreads to absolutely everyone he touches.
It's the ultimate narrative argument for consequences. You simply cannot control the blast radius of your actions.
And speaking of mind-blowing connections, we have to talk about the real-life inspirations for this disaster.
Because when I read this part of the source material, I genuinely had to double-check it. It feels way too perfect to be true.
It really does. So
Yeah.
the source states that this plane crash plotline was not entirely fiction.
It was heavily inspired by the Aeromexico Flight 498 crash that happened in 1986.
That was a catastrophic collision over Cerritos, California.
Yeah.
A DC-9 and a small Piper aircraft crossed paths.
But here is the coincidence that makes the hair on my arm stand up.
The source reveals the actual name of the real-life air traffic controller involved in that 1986 crash.
Tell the listeners.
Yeah.
Because it is wild.
His name was Walter White.
It just stops you in your tracks.
I am not joking. The air traffic controller who was on duty, who was held partially responsible for the mid-air crash, was literally named Walter White.
Did Vince Gilligan know this when he wrote the pilot?
It's heavily debated in the fandom. Some sources say it's a pure cosmic coincidence.
Others suggest he might have subconsciously heard the name in passing years ago while researching aviation crashes.
But think about the sheer odds of that. You name your main character Walter White specifically because it's a generic, bland, everyman name.
And then 2 years later, you write a season finale about an air traffic controller causing a plane crash because of your character's actions.
And the real guy was named Walter White.
It really blurs the line between fiction and reality. It adds this eerie layer of a curse to the whole production.
It certainly deepens the mythos of the show. It feels like the dark universe of Breaking Bad was bleeding into the real world.
Before we wrap up the analysis, we should definitely touch on the critical reception. How did people react to this at the time?
Because ending a season with a commercial airline disaster is a very dark, bold choice.
It was definitely polarizing at the time it aired, but the reviews quickly settled into really high praise.
The source quotes Donna Bowman from the AV Club. She reviewed the episode and called it horrific perfection.
Which is an incredibly accurate summary of the tale.
The Ringer did a massive retrospective in 2019 and ranked this episode 28th out of all 62 episodes.
Vulture put it at 35th overall. It's generally seen as a solid high-tier episode, mostly praised for its narrative boldness.
And technically speaking, it was highly recognized by the industry.
Yes. Lynn Willingham won the Emmy for Outstanding Single-Camera Picture Editing for a drama series, specifically for this episode.
If you watch the intercutting between the quiet tension of the air traffic control room and Walt relaxing by the pool, you can easily see why she won.
Or the rapid montage of Mike cleaning the apartment. It's masterful editing.
And Michael Slovis was nominated for cinematography. The distinct look of this episode, the harsh bright light, the floating pink bear in the blue water, it's visually iconic.
He really established the visual language of the series going forward from this point.
So let's bring it all home. We've unpacked the devastating tragedy of Jane, the accidental birth of Mike Ehrmantraut,
Skyler's relentless detective work breaking down Walt's lies.
and the literal raining down of fiery debris onto Albuquerque.
We've seen how the show powerfully argues that no single action is an island. Everything has a reaction.
I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as we close out. We talked a lot about luck today.
The terrible bad luck of Donald looking away from the radar screen for just 5 seconds.
The bad luck of Walt groggily mumbling which one while under anesthesia.
But also the incredibly good luck of Bob Odenkirk being too busy to film a scene.
It raises a really provocative question for you about storytelling and honestly about real life.
How much of Breaking Bad, or even your own life, is driven by careful, meticulous planning and how much is driven by pure random chance.
If Bob Odenkirk isn't busy filming a sitcom, we never get Mike Ehrmantraut.
If Walt doesn't mumble 2 words, Skyler probably stays in the marriage a while longer.
If Jane happens to roll over on her side during the night, the planes simply don't crash.
It is the ultimate chaos theory on display. One butterfly flaps its wings and a Boeing 737 falls out of the sky.
It's terrifying, and it is absolutely brilliant television.
It really is.
That is all for this deep dive into ABQ. Thanks so much for exploring the wreckage with us.
Thank you for joining us.
We will see you next time.